Gareth A. Davies, as is tradition, every Fight Night episode. What have you been up to the last 7 days?
I departed for Cyprus last Monday for 5 days to see my lovely old folks, but also to just take a little rest from the boxing world. There were fires everywhere and fallout everywhere. The aftermath of Joshua and Dubois and Joshua has been fascinating to watch from afar for a few days. I had a holiday booked anyway. But that's what I did really. I did watch the things that you mentioned. I did watch Chris Eubank Jr. I know we'll get into that. I think his choice of location and things to say was ill-advised. What he put out at the time, it wasn't the time and the place. We can get into that. The fallout from Daniel Dubois and Anthony Joshua, I've not stopped reading or being involved in. It's enormous. I think when Anthony Joshua loses, the whole firmament comes down on boxing. It shows you how big he is. Do people respect him? Is disrespect being shown to him? How are we talking to him? Look what he's done for boxing. The Anthony Joshua brigade comes out, and I understand it. For Daniel Dubois, has he got enough credit? Maybe not still. Maybe this is the takeover. We discussed this in Fight Week in real detail on both sides. No one's taking sides. He took massive opportunities with both hands. We've had an incredible weekend with Paintgate, Sandy Ryan, and all these other things going on, yet we're still talking about that heavyweight title fight. It's an extraordinary time. How about you, my brother?
Yeah, almost the same. I took some time out as well, just because these fight weeks are exhausting. But the aftermath has been, I would say, even more exhausting. I felt like I had to put up the walls to defend myself. You said Dubois was going to get knocked out, or you said AJ should retire. It's like, wow, you can't have an opinion anymore. It's like, am I not allowed to have an opinion? Okay, I might have been wrong about AJ beating Dubois, but so was 99% of the world. So it's been an interesting week, to say the least. And then I host a press conference, and Chris Eubank Jr. calls everyone a scumbag. I'm like, okay, here we go again. Like,
And you asked the question as well.
And I asked the question, thinking I was going to get a slightly different response. And then Frank looks at me like, how dare you ask this question? Eddie looks at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh my God, this is... And I'm like, Chris, come on, play the game. Everyone is kumbaya around the fire right now. We're all getting on. Even though we kind of don't get on, we're pretending to get on. Let's just continue this. And he just comes in and throws a grenade right in the middle. And look, to be honest, it was a boring press conference until he done it. So at least we got some clips from it. But I'm with you. Ill-advised, but I mean, you want to say something. You want it to get eyeballs on it. You want people to talk about it. That was probably the best occasion in which to do it.
He's always been very good. We've always said, well, I say he's box office. He always has been, in my view. And it obviously did steal all the headlines, but it was brilliant to see it dealt with so quickly behind the scenes, by the likes of Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn, Spencer Brown, and of course, Turki Al-Sheikh. You're right. The world after Joshua and Dubois, and that came in the midst of the recovery of all those things, is very divided and divisive at the moment. And like you say, if you've got a view one way, you're being critiqued. But if you go the other way, you're being critiqued as well. So it's a minefield at the moment. But it's a minefield because it's big news. The anthem, the Saudi anthem, was discussed in detail. And I think people are wrong about it to critique it. I believe in what the Saudi Arabians are doing in boxing. We're both deeply involved in the sport, in the fight industry. And I don't mind criticism, but I think when it borders on what looks like xenophobia or just criticism for the sake of it, I think it's difficult to fathom why people don't want it to be a fulsome success. I know people are just critics of things, and we are of things as well at times. But I just think, I think sometimes there's criticism for criticism's sake, without looking at the history of things and looking at where anthems are played sometimes. And a lot of people have mentioned the anthem and why was the Saudi anthem played. It was the Riyadh season Wembley edition. We were at Trafalgar Square. I understand up to about £2 million could have been spent on all that build-up stuff. It was extraordinary. We've never seen anything like it. Like you say, it was exhausting. You know, you and I had dinner a couple of times. We had to have dinner because we hadn't eaten, because it was started in the evening, it ended at 10 o'clock. It was a brilliant week.
Yeah.
It was a brilliant event. I'm so delighted to have been involved in it. In row 2, in the middle, for talkSPORT and the Telegraph.
Yeah, you know, back to the national anthem thing. It's weird, you know. Riyadh season's come along and they've put on fights that, let's be honest, other promoters couldn't put on. They couldn't afford to put on. One coming up October 12th. No promoter would have touched that fight, just because there's no money in it really. Bivol versus Beterbiev, but Riyadh season have decided to do it. Right, you're going to take a loss on that. Carl Froch has been very critical, and obviously has Simon Jordan, about the national anthem. I've gone on to both and had a look underneath their comment section, because I always find, okay, that's where you can kind of see people agree or disagree. And the amount of people that are like, come on, guys, it was only 20 seconds. It was only 20 seconds. So most people didn't even realize, and we kind of got on with it. They're giving us the fights we want. If playing a national anthem is going to give me the fight at Wembley Stadium, then so be it. So be it. I'll take it 100 times out of 100. I feel like we should stop finding, as you say, faults with things. We can find faults in everything in life. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy the fights we're getting. Enjoy the occasions. Wembley was a magnificent occasion. Like, I've seen someone critique the number of people that were there. So no, they lied about 98,000. It was really 89. I'm like, what are you doing? Are we counting seats? Like, just enjoy the moment. Like, what's going on with people? Like, why are we trying to find a small thing all the time to bring something down, when a couple of years ago we were moaning that we weren't getting the fights? A few years before that, we were moaning that some of the big fights were happening at leisure centres. Now all of a sudden we're continually moaning. Honestly, I don't get it. It's annoying.
It is. And like I say, I mean, if people want to criticise,
Sorry. I've just been sort of giving this, our producer. Sorry to cut across you. The American national anthem is going to be played at Wembley this weekend.
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
NFL.
It always is.
I can't wait to see. Oh, no. I can't wait to see Carl Froch have a dig at that. I need to see Carl Froch have a dig at the American national anthem being played at the NFL this weekend. If he doesn't, then there's clearly a problem. And it's a problem that needs to be highlighted, because it's bigger than obviously boxing and sports. Because there you go. That's it right there, isn't it? And I want to see who jumps on that one. And I guarantee you 99% of the people that jumped on the Saudi national anthem won't jump on the American national anthem.
Yeah, like you say, you're pointing out that people, some people within the sport, some people who are observers of the sport, don't look kindly on what Saudi Arabia and the Riyadh season, notably the Riyadh season, are doing. That they are. It is an advert for their nation. It is an advert for their country and for what they're trying to do in the world and what they're trying to grow. And that is the same case with tennis and bits of snooker at the moment, and they're investing in sport. They're investing in the future of their country, and I don't begrudge them that in the slightest. And they just happen to have picked our industry. I've said it a long time ago. I feel very fortunate that they've picked boxing, not Formula One or other sports, say rugby or something. They've picked boxing, and they've picked boxing. We're lucky that Turki Al Sheikh is a fan of boxing, that he sees a reason for it. They want their nation to take up combat sports. They're doing the same with mixed martial arts, aren't they? They've got involved with the UFC as well. So I'm not going to knock it. I've never felt that. I've always felt it's a positive move. And you and I have been over there now several times. I think I've spent 7 or 8 weeks in Saudi Arabia now, and I think as people travel there, as people see their society, and as their society opens up, I think views on it will change. And there's a bigger picture. Governments are working together as well. It's not just in sport. Our world is a complex. Our world, the world that you and I inhabit, is a complex world, but so is the world complex as well. And I do think that there's a lot of work going on at that level up there governmentally that people aren't thinking about as well. And sometimes acceptance and change is hard for a lot of people, and I think that's what we're seeing with the critics of it.
Yeah, look, this is obviously going to go on and on and on. Every time there is a Riyadh season event, there will be some that will come out and critique it. So, no doubt we'll jump to this conversation sometime down the future again. All right, let's quickly talk about the weekend's action. Apologies, we didn't really dive too much into it last week, but we can do a kind of a post fight debrief if you like now. Sandy Ryan defeated by Michaela Mayer, very close fight that I watched, very close fight. If that fight's in the UK, Sandy gets it. If it's in America, on Michaela Mayer promoted card, she's going to get it. That's just how boxing works, unfortunately. I want to quickly talk about what happened prior to the fight. Sandy Ryan making her way to MSG, and she had a can of red paint thrown at her, which initially I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like a gimmick. I actually thought it was a photo shoot. I know
Yeah,
I'm a bit
no, I know what you
wild here,
mean.
but I thought, yeah. I thought, okay, is she just modeling for something? Is this a designer that I'm unaware of? It wasn't. It was someone throwing a can of paint at her. She said after that, I know I shouldn't have fought. I was attacked leaving my hotel, but I couldn't let them win like that. I was fighting off empty and still felt like I won the fight. I'm obviously disappointed. I'm not taking anything away from the decision, but before coming to the venue, I'd hit a hit and run with paint. Should she have fought?
Um, in hindsight is a wonderful thing. No. First of all, I had Michaela Mayer winning 96-94. I just got off my flight from the Eastern Mediterranean, by the way, and just got in, and I was really looking forward to that fight. Let me just say that as
Yeah.
well. There'd been a kind of very tense build-up, massive feud between the two women over the sharing of coaches from Las Vegas, where Sandy Ryan had gone over to train in the gym that Michaela Mayer has been training in for a long time. So I think that was fascinating in itself. And I remember getting in. I got in really early in the morning. I got the fight on. It was on Sky here in the UK. I think you were you in Dubai watching it? Yeah.
I was, yeah.
It was a really good fight. I thought Michaela Mayer just beat Sandy Ryan to the punch in a terrific fight in 6 of the 4 of the 10 rounds. But I don't argue with 1 round and one way to Sandy or a draw. So yes, I'd like to see the fight again. But the more I delved into Paintgate, Ade, the more I thought she shouldn't have fought. She was assaulted. It was an attack. That could have been someone with a gun or a knife or a brick or and it's a very serious offence because she was and someone knew she was there. Someone was sitting in a car. I've heard about the footage now. They've got the CCTV footage and they were waiting for her, so they knew where she was going to be. It's a very serious business. This could have been, if it's a crank fan, this could have been worse than this assault. And I do think she was assaulted, and I think she was shook up by it, if I can put it that way. And I think it probably did throw her out of her game plan.
100%. It would have. It cannot not throw her out. I mean, boxing is all the training's done. So that last week's all mental, isn't it? It's all mental. Everything has to be right. Preparation, timing. And you're on your way to the biggest fight of your life in America, a big fight against Michaela Mayer, and someone does that. It completely throws you off. Like mentally, I remember keep talking about AJ tripping just before we got to the ring against Dubois. And I remember saying that would have thrown AJ off that little trip, let alone someone dashing paint at you in a foreign country. I mean, she would have been scared. She would have been very shook up. And I think she done well to even perform the way she did. But there now will be a rematch, I hope, because of that.
When you look at her walking into the ring, by the way, that's a very interesting point you bring up because about AJ. And no one else has talked about AJ looking unsteady on his feet. And obviously, he wasn't warmed up on the night, as we'll go into. But my thing about Sandy is, she came in dressed as the Purge. Yes, she didn't seem steady on her feet either as she walked into the arena. She didn't. She was really carefully looking at. I mean, I don't know if you know that walk in the Hulu Theatre, but it was probably ill-advised to wear a mask.
You've almost got to be careful. Yeah, the Hulu Theatre, there's stuff all over the place. It's dark.
Exactly.
It's not the greatest.
Yeah, it's dark. And ironically, they had the security guards all the way down that row of steps because it's a weird walk-in. It's about 60 steps down from the changing rooms, from the dressing rooms. And obviously the if you haven't been in there, I'm talking for people who've never been in there. The ring is right at the back of the theatre. It's a theatre, so the ring is where the stage would be, and it's one bank of seats. It's an amazing atmosphere. It's like the Three Arena in Dublin in some ways. And when the crowd and New York's crowd are very knowledgeable on boxing. And Brian Peters, who's her manager, who's walking in with her, who's also the manager of Katie Taylor, was watching the steps for her really carefully. And she was looking down with her mask. She just didn't look right as well.
Yeah, no, it's a shame because I'm a big fan of Sandy. And like, I remember when she fought, the name skips me now, when she fought...
Terry Harper?
Who is it? No, she fought in America before and she won and she got a draw. And it's completely...
Jessica McCaskill?
Jessica McCaskill, yeah. So America's not been good for her, but I mean the same could be said of Michaela. She's been unlucky in those fights against Baumgardner, and I thought Michaela beat Natasha Jonas. So it's almost a bit of a swings and roundabouts thing here.
Rematch, please.
Rematch. Go again. Go again in the UK.
Yeah. But I think also, Ade, with the New York Police Department, sorry to interrupt, with the New York Police Department, we've got so much to get through today, with the New York Police Department investigating it, we don't know what's going to come out. I'm not pointing the finger, rather, at Michaela Mayer over this. But, you know, a lot of people are going to think, because of the beef between them, that something untoward has happened. You know, it could have just been a crazed fan who's a fan of Michaela. But it's going to be a weird one because they'll get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, no, they will. Mayer has denied having anything to do with it. But nevertheless, the storyline is there for a rematch. Very quickly, Terry Harper became a world champion as well for the third time in 3 different weight classes. She beat Rhiannon Dixon. A very good performance from Terry, who last time looked really out of sorts against Sandy Ryan. But that's a big win for Terry Harper. I don't know what next, because when she does take that big step up in terms of competition, she does get
struggles against punches, Eddie.
Yeah. So they need to sort of look at what they do with Terry, but they're a good. Terry's in a situation where she is one of those females that can bounce up and down in weights. So there's always going to be good fights for her, whether it be a 135, 140, 147, and we've seen her go to 154. So well done to Terry Harper as well. All right, you're listening to Fight Extra on talkSPORT 2. Still to come, we are going to be talking about the upcoming Riyadh season card between Beterbiev and Bivol. Up next, though, we're going to hear from Daniel Dubois and his trainer Don Charles with a rematch against AJ looking likely. Welcome back. You're listening to Fight Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo alongside Gareth Davies. All right, the fallout still continues about AJ versus Daniel Dubois. Daniel Dubois solidifying himself as the IBF champion. And by the way, I'm going to do my top 5 heavyweights on this show. I think Daniel Dubois has jumped very, very high in the rankings. Before we do all that, though, let's hear from Daniel Dubois, the current champion. He's told talkSPORT he is more than happy to rematch AJ because he feels that he can beat him even better this time.
If that happens down the line, yeah. If that happens next year, yeah, I'm gonna go for it. I want to do it even better next time. So, yeah. I know where I need to improve on as well. So, yes, as a champion and as a fighter, I just want to, prove people wrong all the time, and that's what we've been doing. I did myself proud. I'm always my biggest critic as well, so I always look where I can improve on, but I'm proud. All the fights I've had back-to-back recently have been top-level fights, and I've come through every one of them, so, yeah, I'm proud of myself.
Daniel Dubois, very, very confident. And why wouldn't he be? Obviously, you watch that fight back again, and I've said this openly. I thought AJ probably won about 30 seconds of that fight. Daniel Dubois was dominant from start to finish. So if you're Dubois, and you've gone into the fight, hoping, now you go into this rematch knowing, like, if I catch him again, I'm going to hurt him again and I can stop him again. So Daniel Dubois should be confident, and it's a lot more money. I don't know what the split was this time around, but it will be more favorable for Dubois this time, I'm guessing. So if you're Dubois, if you're Frank, if you're Don, it's the fight to make. It
is. Daniel Dubois fears no one at the moment. He would go in against anyone. And I think again, my understanding, I think this is out there. If it's not, then this is what I know, that the options were with the Saudi Arabians for the rematch. But obviously both fighters needing to accept it. And you can imagine if the option was there from the Saudi Arabian setup for Riyadh season, and it'll be over there, the rematch, I imagine, probably on December the 21st. If not,
Too soon.
or February.
February.
February. I think
yeah.
February has been floated in my head with people I've spoken to behind the scenes, and it's a surprise to take the rematch because it was so one-sided, but I also get it as well. I'm not sure it's well advised for Anthony Joshua to be doing that. My feeling was sit out and see what happens with Fury first, which obviously they're going to do anyway. So the roadmap could change. I mean, unless we have a press conference to confirm that is the case, but at the moment that looks to be the case, because if you follow the money, if Fury loses, does Usyk fight Dubois again
for the rematch?
If Usyk loses, do we then need to get Joshua against Fury, which is a fight we know they want to make? So there's a lot of complexity around it. I mean, I understand the rematch, but on optics alone, you would probably say that Joshua struggles to beat Dubois now, even though who knows what could happen if he could pull the trigger first, which is what happened in the fight. Daniel Dubois dominated, and we always gave that caveat, a lot of us who picked Joshua, that if Daniel lands first and lands heavy, that could change the course of the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think fight fans truly understand, like, whoever lands first in a heavyweight fight, and we're talking the big boys here, we're talking 19-stone giants, gladiators. You've swung it your
especially
way.
The way those two fight.
Recover. Yeah, it's aggressive. It's on the front foot, and if whoever could push whoever back first and say, "Look, I'm dominant here," and it was Daniel, then it's very difficult to recover from. I think Eddie wants AJ to sit it out because Eddie keeps saying, "Let's wait for Fury Usyk." Knowing AJ, I think AJ would want to go straight back in there with Daniel. The ego is being crushed, and he wants some get back.
But Ade, I'm sure we said it last week. To be fair to Anthony Joshua, when he lost to Andy Ruiz catastrophically in New York, and when Anthony Joshua loses, it's always catastrophic because he is such an enormous story. And people are questioning, why are you talking about Anthony Joshua when he was the loser? You should be talking about Daniel Dubois. No, Anthony Joshua's done 500,000 in ticket sales. Yeah, it's ticket sales in his career. 500,000, which is extraordinary. He's a box office.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand how people don't get that. Like when Conor McGregor, we're going to switch to MMA quickly. When Conor McGregor lost to Dustin Poirier, 99% of the write-ups were about Conor McGregor. Like, we're not talking about Dustin Poirier. We'll get to that another time. It's all about Conor. It's the same thing with AJ. AJ is the pay-per-view star.
It is. And I think I still think conventional wisdom says sit it out and don't commit to a Daniel Dubois fight. But obviously he's going to be paid extraordinarily well. And his feeling is now, I'm just going to fight everyone. And to be fair to him, as I was going to say, he's rematched Ruiz, he's rematched Alexander Usyk, and he's been better every time. So we haven't seen him in this kind of scenario where it was very one-sided, and he was still trying to get to his feet when he was knocked down for the fourth time. The fight was in him. There's no question that's in him. It's about pulling the trigger and exercising his strategy. I used the expression fluffing his lines last week, and it wasn't received very well by certain people. But the bottom line is, all I meant was he didn't implement his strategy on the night, and he got caught, and he got caught cold early. There's all this talk about him coming late to the ring. And late to the venue and not being warmed up enough. And there's been a lot of discussion around that, which is fascinating. So they have to right the wrongs. And if he wants to right the wrongs in the ring with Daniel Dubois as well, we're definitely not going to be not interested in watching it.
No, I think there are so many now weird, like all of a sudden Dubois has become a player in this. He wasn't a player in it 6 months ago, right? Even after the Hrgovic fight, he wasn't really a player in terms of where the big fights are played out. Now, all of a sudden, Dubois could fight Fury for an undisputed. It could happen, right? Frank Warren, I know, doesn't want it to happen, but it could happen. Usyk rematch is exciting. And the AJ rematch is exciting. I mean, these are all fights that will probably go to Riyadh, but could easily fill out Wembley Stadium now. right? Daniel Dubois has become that guy. So I do find it all fascinating.
Daniel Dubois and Tyson Fury at Wembley would be enormous as well.
Enormous.
But again, how do we see that fight? Would Fury be able to nullify him, use his jab, lean on him? Maybe we talked about this. I certainly wrote about it in the build-up to Joshua Dubois. And maybe he gets to walk last next time, by the way. Is that would he get to walk last with Fury? Maybe not again.
Absolutely no chance. No ways Fury waiting in the ring for Daniel Dubois.
Don't see it.
You know this.
I don't see it.
No way.
Is he on the cusp of the takeover of the heavyweight division? You know, you've spoken to me about, and people have spoken to me. People like Johnny Fisher, other people you've spoken to have mentioned. I can't recall who it was now. I don't know if I'll let you name him, but that Daniel Dubois hits hard. It's like being hit by bags of cement. When Daniel Dubois hits
Lawrence
Bakole, yes. We were talking about it off air, yes. This is a kid, if he believes in himself fully, could actually take over the heavyweight division.
I don't know if that's possible. I do think there are fights out there where there are guys out that can beat each other. Like I wouldn't 100%. I would like if Bakole Dubois was made tomorrow, I'd say Bakole beats him.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not too sure about
but these are close fights. If Joseph Parker Dubois was made, I'm like, oh, that's a great fight. If Zhang Dubois was made, I'm like, whoa, here we go.
Yeah.
There are so many good fights out there.
And could he? And does Usyk still beat him? Does Fury outbox him? Let's do our top 7 in the division right now, then.
Top 7. Okay, I'm happy. You first.
Well, obviously Usyk is number 1 at the moment. I've got
Usyk's number
Fury
1.
at 2.
I've got Dubois at 2.
So you think he beats Fury, yeah?
No. I just think I'm very much of what have you done for me lately, as opposed to what I think would happen in a fight. And I look at what Dubois has done lately, and he's beaten 2 top 10 guys, stopped them both, and I don't remember the last time Fury beat a top 10 guy. Wilder, when was that? I can't remember when that was. So I'm going for Dubois.
Was Dillian top 10 when they fought? Arguably, perhaps.
Arguably, yeah. Maybe, yeah.
It was. Well, the last Wilder fight was 2022, was it? 21?
2022, 2021, maybe.
I know, time does pass, doesn't it? Well, I've got Usyk, Fury, Dubois, Parker, Zhang, Bakole, Kabayel Joshua.
Wow. AJ has really dropped.
Or maybe Joshua Kabayel, you know?
Yeah, but even so, I mean, that's 6-7 or 7-6. Okay, so I'm going to quickly do it in my head. So I've got Usyk, Dubois, Fury, Parker, Bakole, Zhang, Kabayel, AJ.
Yeah, it was very, very, very similar. The only difference there is Parker and Zhang, I think. Oh, and you've got Dubois at actually the number 1 challenger in the world, if you have Usyk as the number 1.
Yeah, I just look at Dubois' recent run of Miller, Hrgovic, and AJ, and I mean that's so impressive. Whereas Fury's been Ngannou, very controversial in the end. Usyk defeat, and before that, as you said, Dillian White. And I like Dillian White, Ngannou, Usyk defeat compared to Miller win, Hrgovic win, AJ win. You've got to jump for me. He's got to jump. It's close, but he's got to jump for me very quickly. All right, before we wrap this section, should we hear Don Charles being not so happy with you? Let's play this out. Don Charles visited the talkSPORT studios and was there with part of his team.
Ian Dubois,
Adam Catcher and Gareth Davies. Was it Ian Dubois in this one? Okay, Ian Dubois.
Along the way, some things happened to you where you're now, he's become my biggest critic, based with no foundation. So I don't know what I've done to you, my friend. Every time, Daniel in particular, you've got it wrong every time, my dear friend. Every wrong, badly wrong. Yeah.
What with Daniel, you mean?
Yeah, your predictions.
It's
Daniel's
not,
gonna win.
Not
it's just the
you,
way. No,
you
wait.
That.
It's just the way you say it. This is deeper because remember I keep bringing the age into it, I'm a very wise old man.
You are.
And when someone speaks, I've also become a psychologist. I didn't get a degree in it, but human psychology. I study humans. I made my job to study humans. There's a deeper thing, and that's what gets me. It almost becomes personal. It's almost like you're wishing for me to fail.
No, that's not true.
I'm telling you.
That's not true.
No, but I'm telling you how it comes across. It's
I
almost
pick with my head, not my heart, Don.
It's almost like you're wishing. You're getting your personal thoughts cluttered with your profession. You're mixing the two. You should always be able to separate them. Okay?
No, I always pick with my head, not my heart. So
it's an observation.
If I pick with my heart, I'll be with you.
Right?
You know that.
No, like I said, it's a deeper meaning. It's not just you. It's not an isolated problem. There's a number of experts, so-called experts. You're not going to like what I'm going to say, but I've come here to speak. I always speak the truth.
I know you do, but that's what I love about you.
In every job we do, in every walk of life, when we get something wrong, when I get my job wrong, I get the sack. I get sacked. I get fired. In football management, you get your job wrong, you get sacked.
Don Charles, none too happy at the moment with everyone. It's not just an attack on you. I think he's simply annoyed at boxing at the moment. I think it's fair to say. Obviously, look, an amazing win for him. I don't think he's getting enough credit for the win still. I think those that know. I think you've given him enough credit, a lot of credit actually. Me and you've spoken on this show and off air about Don Charles, and that Don Charles deserves a lot more. So it was, as I was watching, I was thinking, Don, you're attacking the wrong person. Gareth's giving you actually quite a lot of plaudits. So that was disappointing. I'm going to speak to Don as well about that. I thought that was quite disappointing, but he's obviously very fired up right now and very emotional.
Yeah, well, I've always got on with Don. I've still get on with Don. It was just, I was quite surprised by the vehemence and vitriol in his attack. And I realised in the end, it didn't matter what I said. It was not going to be, it's not going to sit with him. I was pleased for him. I am pleased for Daniel. It's pretty obvious we're pleased for him. And Don Charles is a part of that. If Don goes back to the broadcast, he'll hear me saying, I'd like to have heard Daniel thank Don Charles for the work he's done with him over the last 4 fights and 13 months. Like you say, Don's going through something at the moment where he wants to air grievances on things. He feels hard done by. And, it all came out. He called me fake. I'm not fake. I pick with my head. My heart says another thing sometimes. And I'm not going to get involved in a row with Don over it. I've spoken a lot about it since. I was quite surprised. And I know I'll speak with him again, and I wish him well with everything he does. And I hope he gets the plaudits he deserves, Ade.
Yeah, so do I, because he's been in and around this sport for a very, very long time. And there'll be some that only sort of know him for what he's done with Derek Chisora, but he's been around the likes of Frank Buglioni. He's trained as well. So he's trained some good kids. He had AJ in the camp very, very early on. So there's been some good fighters around Don. So hopefully now people can start recognizing that he is a good trainer, and hopefully more fighters turn to him when they need. We haven't got time to play, but he also took aim at Usyk as well, which was surprising. Called Usyk a cheat and a liar. I'm guessing he's just referring to the knockdown, that Usyk wasn't hurt. And again, it's Don attacking everyone. Like, I feel like this has almost become like, Oscar De La Hoya does his Thursday thing, where he just kind of shoots at everyone. I feel like Don's going to shoot at a lot of people right now.
Well, this is part of the fallout we've talked about, why we both need a little bit of a break in this very intense period, as we talked about at the top of the show. It was Alexander Usyk going down, and obviously the fact that I thought at the time Usyk tried to milk the punch. I thought it was a borderline low blow, which again I had roused the Frank over, and Don obviously feels that Usyk cheated Daniel out of 3 world titles on the night. But like I say, it's just his opinion on things, and Luis Pabon did what he did. Usyk lived to fight another day. It was declared. I thought it was on the belt line. I thought it was just kind of callable as low. But Don again just airing his grievances, and I thought he was very strong on Usyk because he'd gone from criticising me suddenly into criticising Usyk, and I'd seen him. unhappy with other people during the week, with Anthony Joshua, with Derek Chisora in other interviews. So Don's coming for everybody.
It's coming for everyone. Get your guard up. The big man Don Charles is unleashing bullets everywhere, which is interesting. All right, you're listening to Find Out Extra on talkSPORT 2. Up next, we are going to talk Riyadh season and a live return to action for a certain Chris Eubank Jr. Welcome back. You're listening to Find Out Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, the great Gareth A. Davies. All right, let's jump straight to this. I hosted a press conference which was boring. I think it was very boring. You're very typical. Like, everyone's saying they're happy to be here. No one going at each other. And then I threw it to Chris Eubank Jr. and he took aim at everybody. Eubank Jr. They're calling basically all the promoters scumbags. Frank Warren, you're a scumbag. Eddie Hearn, Frank Smith, scumbag. Callie Sowland, scumbag. Obviously, he's retracted.
Slave contract, he said about Calla.
Yeah, he did to Calla. Yeah, and Calla's responded as well, saying, look, 1 second, I've promoted all these fighters, and he named all the fighters that he's promoted over the world in recent years. Ask them what I'm like. But, I will say this about Chris. Gives you gold all the time. Hey, I mean, because all of a sudden, as I said, it was a dull press conference. You obviously decided you didn't even want to turn up. You was in Cyprus. And all of a sudden, it became quite an exciting press conference because of Chris Eubank Jr. So he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he went there. I mean, he went there with the lines prepared, didn't he? He was fully aware of what he was doing. And rather like David Hay in the past, who was going to beat Audley Harrison worse than Rodney King in the LA riots, and who the severed Klitschko heads with the T-shirt. Chris Eubank Jr. falls into the same category. He's a master of promotion. He is box office. He's very clever how he does things. I've always gotten incredibly well with Chris. He's very clever about how he goes around about things. But I just thought he chose his attack on those three prominent promoters, Warren, Hearn, and Calla Sowland, at the wrong time and in the wrong place.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Because they've got him on board.
Is there a better time? Though? If that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, but he's not right. He's detracted his comments.
This is my point. No, but I don't agree with what he's done, because even when I threw it to him, I was like, okay, what are you doing? But if you are going to do that, surely there isn't a better time to do it. They're all there, apart from Calla. Like, the world's media are watching. If you are going to do something like that, whether wrong or right, that's the right time to do it.
Well, I mean, it's a big platform to do it on, but to denigrate,
this is my point.
Denigrate a promoter that's been in the sport 46 years, to denigrate one of the great young promoters who's going to go on to be a Hall of Famer and a legend in Eddie Hearn, who are both working together at the moment as well, to critique Calla Sowland, who really helped Eubank make his name in the Super Sixes series. And I hadn't heard, and particularly I think to air the legal case with Frank Warren on that platform was probably just the wrong thing to do. It wasn't the right time, the right place. I think, given that he's been brought in to the fold, if you like, into the Riyadh season. He's been brought in to a situation where he's almost got a gimme against Zeramata. He's turned down a fight with Hamza Shiraz. They clearly want him in the mix. And, obviously he thanked Turki Al Sheikh, and he thanked him because he's been accepted into the fold. So what was fascinating, Ade, for me, was how quickly it was dealt with behind the scenes as well. Because I think someone's clearly said to him, unless you retract that, you're not getting involved here. You're not. I imagine that's what was said to him,
Probably, yeah, and probably rightly so. But what I will say, and this isn't to defend Chris, it's more for young boxers coming up. Like, I've never, we cover various sports. Obviously, you've covered so many different sports back in the day. I'm lucky enough to cover a few sports now. I can't think of a sport where so many boxers sue promoters, or promoters have boxers out of the ring and in court cases more than this sport. It's insane. So if Chris was right or wrong, I don't know. But it's not like we don't know this doesn't happen. Like, how many times have fighters been in promotional contracts with promoters? I mean, Anthony Yarde is a fighter right now, who's out of the ring. I think one of the best light heavyweights in the world. He's obviously going through issues with his promoter. Terence Crawford had things to say about Bob Arum. Like, there's so many top fighters. Andre Ward was out of the ring for years. Bernard Hopkins. There's so many top fighters that seem to have issues with promoters, and I think it needs to be looked at. There's obviously a problem with some of these contracts these fighters are signing.
Well, I think there's also
a big problem.
I think there's also a point at which a young man becomes a mature man and has a family and he has mortgages and he has children, where he suddenly realizes, hang on a minute, I'm putting my life on the line when I'm fighting, and I'm not, and someone else who isn't fighting is getting too big a rewards. And I think that's what happens. And then you have very messy divorces financially. And I do think that happens. And I think it happens when boxers suddenly go from that median level up to a higher level and a higher level. And they think, well, why is someone, getting $1.5 million and I'm getting 4? Or so I'm just throwing it out there as an example.
No, you're right. No, you are so right. I do think there is a stage where fighters think they're worth a bit more, and want to get a bit more of the cut.
And their trainer and there's manager and there's so. And I get it. I do get it, because they suddenly realise what the effort they've put in, and bits of their life and chunks of their life are being taken away by fighting.
And I think, and I stand to be corrected, I think Turkey's now seeing that as well. I think he's seeing what some of these fighters are actually taking when it's all said and done. So, okay, example, Turkey could be paying fighter X 1 million. And then he sees fighter X walking away with 200,000. He's like, well, what's happened here? So I think he started seeing that. By the way, guys, that was just me chucking out numbers there. It's not real. But I think he's starting to see what goes on behind the scenes as well. And he isn't very happy with it.
But you're not too far off, because if you earn $1 million, you've got 40% tax, and you've got your promoter's fee, and you've got your manager's fee, and you've got your training camp fee. It could be.
It's a lot.
It could be 400 you're taking home afterwards. I'm just saying that.
It's crazy. No, you are correct. Thank you. You are right. What I think this Chris Eubank Jr. rant has done again is almost we've forgotten about the main event again. And I felt like it kind of got sort of hidden away when we did the 5 versus 5. It was like, okay, Frank versus Eddie. Oh, and we have, by the way, Bivol Beterbiev. And I want it to be so much more about Bivol Beterbiev, but Bivol Beterbiev seems to be the biggest fight in recent years without the biggest hype. Like, no one, like, we in the trade are talking about it, but that's it. Like, no casual fan is jumping onto it. And it's such a shame that it's being lost again.
It's a terrific fight. And the great thing about it is when you think of their styles and you think of what they've done, you just go back and forth the entire time on it, wondering who's going to win the fight. And that's what's amazing about it.
But think about the hype for the other undisputeds we've had in the last 10 months, like Crawford Spence, Fury Usyk. I mean, and then you've got this one. And it's like, well, the hype level is just...
Yeah, but they don't sell to the mainstream, do they? Because neither man is prepared to step outside his shell. They're both very restrained characters. They won't say a bad word about their opponent. They won't even say a word about their opponent, not even a good word about... There's no word about their opponent. They only focus on themselves. It's not... It's weird, isn't it? It just shows you that hype and promotion are so important in fight sports, and why not always the best fighters are the biggest names and earn the greatest amount of money. Stylistically, it's a fantastic fight. Stylistically, they're both brilliant fighters. It's just one of those. We can't do anything about it. It's why, like you say, Eubank Jr. creating waves helps to promote the event in lots of ways. The fact that Fabio Wardley and Fraser Clark are having their rematch on the card, the fact that Sky Nicholson and Raven Chapman are going to be the first 2 women to fight each other, and I quite like that fight. They've done well to build the card in the right way, and I am so excited to sit ringside and see that fight next week between Beterbiev and Bivol. And again, the Saudi Arabians have made that possible, and I think we would have seen the fight in the world, but we wouldn't have seen it with this magnitude.
Yeah, not this
or a press conference in England, even.
Yeah, it would have been in Canada and almost hidden away, and then fight night we turn up, and that would have been it. And I feel like it deserves so much more, and I'm happy that fighters are getting paid so much more as well, because it is a very, very special fight. All right, you're listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Up next, we're going to look ahead to this weekend's action. Welcome back to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, the great Gareth A. Davies. All right, let's talk about very briefly a fight card happening this weekend. Nick Ball is taking on Ronnie Rios in Liverpool. A homecoming fight for Nick Ball. Congratulations to him. Well deserved as well for what he's done in the sport. Obviously, the last couple of fights have been magnificent for him. Raymond Ford, a fight that was very, very close. He got the decision. Ray Vargas, a fight I thought he won. And that was given a draw. So a fully deserved world champion. And my like for him is even more than that. Look, there aren't that many fighters, especially world champions, that are giving you, what's he had now? 5 fights in 15 months. I think it's something ridiculous like that. And by the way, he's not blowing guys out of the ring in one round. They're going 12s and 10s all the time. But yeah, he's still giving you action. It's not a style that will last long, but it's a style that I'm going to enjoy whilst it's here, because he deserves his plaudits. And hopefully, Nick Ball, there's been some talk about Inoue potentially. Hopefully, if he gets past Ronnie Rios, another big fight for him in Riyadh season.
Yeah, well, he's a small Sherman tank, isn't he? You know, he's a pocket battleship, if you like. And he's built for that style. He's built to be tenacious and rugged and to come forward, and he relishes it. And he's a marauding fighter, as he showed against Ray Vargas, and indeed as he showed against Ray Ford, who Eddie Hearn's coming out this week and saying, I thought Ray Ford won that fight. I completely disagree with Eddie. I thought Nick Ball was a clear winner in terms of 7-5 in rounds, or maybe an 8-4. I thought he beat Ray Vargas as well in the previous iteration in Riyadh season, out in Riyadh. What I like about him, and you do mention Naoya Inoue, it's a fight I've been pressing for. If Naoya Inoue wants to step up to featherweight from super bantam, Nick Ball's a very interesting character for him to fight, because he's going to come forward and it's going to suit Naoya Inoue's counterpunching. It's a big fight. It's a great fight. And I know they want to get Naoya Inoue into the Riyadh season. So that's that one. Look, he's facing Ronnie Rios, 34-4 with 17 knockouts, first of all. Very experienced fighter. He's fought against Oscar Negrete and Ray Vargas himself. So it's not a gimme as a homecoming, which is what this is. This is the chance for Nick Ball to celebrate what he's achieved so far. There's going to be 9,000 or 10,000 raucous Scousers there cheering Ball to the absolute limits in this fight. And he'll do what he does best, which is attack, be aggressive, and I think he'll probably get a late stoppage in this fight.
Yeah, I want him to get a late stoppage, because him going the distance all the time, I mean, geez, look, I'm happy that he gives us 12 rounds of action, but his body's not going to be happy for it in the end. So hopefully he can get a mid to late stoppage, and then, we can start the sell of an Inoue fight on a Riyadh season card, potentially in February. Who knows? Who knows how this plays out? Very, very quickly, this isn't in our running order, but I want to quickly just mention it. Alex Pereira takes on Khalil Roundtree, UFC 307. Obviously, Pereira, who's almost been the saving grace for UFC over the last 12 to 18 months. He's fought 4 times in 12 months. He's now, I think, I don't want to say the face of the organization, but you look down the division and you remove John Jones, who doesn't fight. It's probably Pereira. Obviously, we saw Thingy lose a couple of weeks ago as well. Sean O'Malley. So you look at it and you think, okay, Pereira is now the face. Khalil Roundtree is a tough ass, but I expect Pereira to win. And then it's a case of, does he go down to fight Dricus du Plessis at 185? He says he can make 185, or does he go up to really try and do some damage in the heavyweight division?
Yeah, fight like a Tom Aspinall or something, which would be amazing, because they've talked about it.
There you go.
I think the amazing thing about Alex Pereira, like you say, he's a big star in the UFC and one of the major names, is that he doesn't speak English, which probably adds to the mystique slightly. Yeah. Khalil Roundtree, as you rightly mentioned, I think he's on a 5-fight win streak, 4 of them by KO. But I think Pereira is very, very dangerous. He's a fascinating character. And we've lamented the fact that John Jones and Conor McGregor, I'm not sure Conor McGregor will ever fight in the UFC again, if I'm honest. and obviously he's still under contract, but I think they'll keep him under contract because they don't want him as the jealous lover ever to have another partner in MMA in those terms, that analogy, just to make sure people understand it's an analogy in these times. But also on that card, by the way, 39 years old now, I think he is, Jose Aldo. Will this be his last time in the UFC octagon? My word, he's been a great servant.
Oh my Lord, he has been sensational.
Yeah.
Like when you think, I know there's the discussion about Max being Max Holloway, for those not too familiar with who I was talking about, being the greatest featherweight all time, or Volkanovski potentially being that guy now. Go and look at Jose Aldo's record before we start handing out these titles and accolades. Jose Aldo, for longevity and who he's fought, and before, was it the WEC?
It was
before
the WEC.
UFC bought them. Yeah. WEC before the UFC, and what he was doing in the WEC. Even the movie about him is fascinating. If you can watch it, go and watch it. But I think people remember him because of the Conor McGregor defeat in 12 and a half seconds. He's so much more than that. An incredible fighter. And if it is the last time we see him in the octagon, wow. He'll go down as one of the greatest of all time. What a fascinating fighter.
13 years in the UFC. And obviously, a who's who of fighters, from Frankie Edgar to obviously Conor McGregor, Edgar, Max Holloway, Volkanovski. When you think he's fought all these guys, Petr Yan, loads of names.
Chad Mendes fought everyone. Literally, it went down as well. Let's not forget, he went down to 135 pounds to compete. He, honestly, just an extraordinary man. And again, if it is the last time we see him, hopefully the UFC do something to really serenade just how good a servant he's been to the company, because he has been fascinating. All right, Gareth A. Davis, that's that big one in the books today. Thank you very much. You have been listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Remember, if you've missed any of the show, you can listen to it as a podcast. Find it under the Fight Night banner on the talkSPORT app or wherever you get your podcasts from. We'll be back next week.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.